Hi ReVamp Mommies and Friends, welcome back to my channel. And as you can tell, I look a little different. Yes, I still have a lot of work to do, but I am 2.5 weeks postpartum. No more big belly. That's because Tyler Francis made his way into the world on April 7th. And we are so thankful, so grateful that he was healthy, that we had a very good labor and delivery. Even though I'm going to get into all the details about the labor and delivery, it was definitely long. However, it was still just truly blessed, and I'm so thankful that yes, we had VBAC success. Hallelujah. I'm just so thankful that God just really blessed us that we were able to deliver our child in this way this time around. Of course, I've shared in a lot of my update videos about how this was something that I desired to do, having a VBAC, and the fact that we actually were able to actually do it is still just, I'm still in awe every time I think about just that whole process and the laboring and when we finally delivered him, you know, into the world. Honestly, I thought that Tyler would probably come like a week after my due date. So my due date was April 6th. It was on a Friday, and Tyler ended up coming a day after my due date on April 7th. And so after I put out that video, I shared with you all that I had another appointment Wednesday on April 4th. So I had a doctor's appointment, and I went to see my doctor, you know, just normal routine checkup. This was for my 39-week checkup with my doctor. And so when I went in, my husband, he went with me, and we went in, you know, the doctor came in, he checked me and everything. And unfortunately at that time, I had not dilated, Tyler was not engaged. And then like when my doctor checked me, he said that I don't even know what the percentage of that I was effaced. But my, you know, previously I shared that my midwife said that I was 75% effaced, but my doctor then changed the numbers. And of course that varies depending on who's checking you. So this time around, it didn't seem like I was effaced more this time around, where I thought I would have made more progression, but I didn't. So I wasn't dilated. I wasn't, Tyler was not engaged. So you can imagine how, you know, we were feeling at that time, because we were really hoping that, you know, some progress would have been made, especially because I started experiencing some pre-labor contractions. I guess they were Braxton Hicks contractions, because I think that Sunday before all of that, like, I started really experiencing some things, and I think that particular Sunday I lost my mucus plug. So I knew something was about to happen very soon. Of course, even when you lose your mucus plug, you really don't know when, you know, it could be like a week or even 2 weeks after that. So I really didn't just have this expectation like, oh my goodness, he's coming like soon. God just knows how to set things up, I will say that. My sister-in-law, she was here with the girls and all of that. So Ty and I actually, for that doctor's appointment, we said, okay, let's do a mock run where we packed up all of our hospital items. We said, okay, just in case, you know, we have made some progress, let's put everything in the car, let's pack up the car seat, let's get our bags, just in case we don't come back after this doctor's appointment. Because I've heard of stories where you go in to get checked by the doctor, and then they're like sending you to the hospital, and some people aren't prepared for that. So I was like, let's just do a mock run just in case. So of course we had all this stuff in the car, we left, and then of course we ended up coming back home because no progress had been made. Wednesday night, I started having more contractions. They were a lot more painful than the previous ones, to the point where I could not sleep at all. And so I just felt like, okay, something is about to go down. I don't know when, but I had not experienced contractions up like this before, to the point that they're keeping me up. I was still doing my natural induction methods. I actually, when I came home from the doctor, I took some evening primrose oil. I did it orally and I did it vaginally, just to try to help things progress down there. You know, of course I said I don't know if it works or not, but looking at everything now, I want to say that I think that evening primrose oil has definitely helped out. So moving on to Thursday, throughout that day, I was still working up to this point. Throughout that day, I was having just these random contractions. And of course, I wasn't sure if they were Braxton Hicks or real contractions, but the fact that I was like having like what felt like pre-labor all Wednesday night, I just knew like, okay, something's going on here. So after I got off of work, my husband and my sister-in-law, we were all like, let's just go to the mall. And I was like, sure, that's fine, we can go to the mall, because that way I can get some walking in around this mall. And so we went to the mall, we were walking around, we spent a good amount of time at the mall. After that, we were like, okay, let's go to get something to eat. So we went to this place called Freddy's. It's like a burger place, just like right across the street from the mall. So we went to Freddy's, and as we were at the counter ordering our food, I just felt something like, I was like, I know I just didn't pee on myself. Like, what's going on? Like, so I just told Ty, I was like, look, I gotta go to the bathroom really quick. I went to the bathroom, and it wasn't like a flood of water. It was just like a little gush that came out. So I was like, I don't know if this is my water. I don't know if my water just broke. I don't know if I just peed on myself. I'm not sure what this is. I left back out to, you know, eat our food. We sat down, we ate there. But soon after that, I started having like consistent contractions. I mean, they were probably around that time like 7 minutes apart, and it was like consistent the whole time we were there, the whole time we were in the car headed home. And so I texted my doula, I explained to her what happened. And I remember her sharing when we had our prenatal appointment with her, she was saying that, you know, if your water breaks, it's a certain type of color, a certain type of odor, or not odor, but a smell to it. And so once I got home, I was able to really like check. And from that, I was like, it does not smell like pee at all. So I'm thinking like my water has broken a little bit and it's just a small leak. So the contractions during that time, this is Thursday night, the contractions were still very consistent. They were very consistent, and so we were just like, okay, well, I mean, really can't do anything at this point, you know. They haven't picked up to like being 5 minutes apart. They were still around like 7 and stuff like that. So it was my husband, my sister-in-law, and myself. The girls, we had put them to sleep already. So we were just in our room, just like talking, and I think I was on the birth ball, just kind of bouncing and kind of just doing some exercises on that. And all of a sudden, you all, my water just said whoosh. I got up and I ran so quick to the bathroom. They were just like laughing at me, because I guess they didn't know what had happened. But I like grabbed myself. I had this big robe on, and I grabbed myself, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I gotta go. And so y'all, the floodgates like really opened up, and I knew from that point, like, this is the gush. This is the gush that you hear about, like other people share about. This is the gush that you might see in movies, and I had that experience, the big gush. And so I was like, okay, my water just broke. I actually did not know that your water, once it breaks, like it's a whole lot more water that can come like minutes after that. And so I had a few, like maybe 2 or, well, no, probably like 3 or 4 gushes. One of my friends, she said, you might want to like put a towel, you know, in between your legs, and that way that'll kind of help to soak up the water that keeps coming. So I was like, okay, this is crazy. So after that happened, my contractions seemed to have slowed down. And so then I was like, okay, so what do we need to do? Do we need to go to the hospital? Do we need to stay home? You know, I really wasn't in a rush to get to the hospital, because I know once you get there, it's like, of course, you can't eat anything. The clock then starts to where, you know, they're basically saying once your water breaks, of course, if you continue to have like the doctors and the nurses come in to check you, then that increases your risk for infection and all of that. So I was like, let's just wait a little while. And I noticed that my contractions actually had slowed up. It started kind of getting maybe like 10-12 minutes apart. So I'm wondering like, okay, you know, what should we do? And I texted my doula. She was, you know, she suggested that, you know, y'all don't necessarily have to go in right away. That was around like 10:35 p.m. My husband, he did start like packing up, you know, the stuff. He started like pulling out everything and just making sure that we had everything ready to go. And so one thing my doula said, that because sometimes when your water breaks, it can be kind of like an adrenaline rush, and that can also sometimes slow down the contractions. And so she was saying that that's probably why my contractions slowed down, because I felt like I was like on a high after that happened, like, oh my gosh. And so we kind of just like calmed back down, and then from that point on, I think my contractions started like picking back up to where they were like 4 minutes apart, maybe averaging about between 4 to 6 minutes apart. So I decided to call the doctor, and so I spoke with like the emergency nurse and stuff like that. And so she said, okay, you need to go ahead and go into the hospital, and I'll call them, I'll let them know that you are on your way. And so we began to make our way to the hospital, and we arrived at the hospital probably around like 2:30 in the morning. So it was Friday now, April 6th, which is Tyler's due date, Friday, April 6th at like 2:30 in the morning. And so as soon as we pulled up, our doula, she was pulling up right beside us. And so I was like, wow, this is really about to go down. I cannot believe this. The first place we had to stop at, of course, was Triage. And so in there, it was a couple of nurses in there. One of the nurses, she checked me. She was like, I can't feel anything, or I don't know. It was like, I don't know if you dilated and It was just like, just sending my doctor. Thankfully, my doctor, he was actually the one that was there that night. That morning, I guess. So he came in and he checked, and he said, you are actually 5 centimeters dilated. I was like, okay. He was like, but he is still very high. He has not engaged into your pelvic area yet. I was like, okay. And so he was like, we're gonna go ahead and admit you into a room, and we'll just kind of see what happens. While it was good news to be 5 centimeters dilated, the fact that he was still high was the big issue. And my doctor even said, he was like, you know, you're not gonna have a problem with dilating. He's like, I don't think that's gonna be the problem. He's like, the problem is going to be that he's still sitting up so high and he has not come down all the way yet. He was like, but you know, we'll let you labor, we'll see how it goes, and you know, we'll kind of just watch it and see what happens. So they admit me into a room, and at this point, I was just gonna try to just do everything naturally. I didn't really want an epidural, even though the contractions started picking up, they were very painful and everything, but I just wanted to kind of just let my body just do what it needs to do. And I wasn't trying to be superwoman or anything like that. I put in my birth plan that I'm open to an epidural, but I just wanted to kind of just labor naturally initially. Basically stayed up from the time that we were in the hospital room just laboring. Like, the contractions, they were very strong, very painful. My husband and my doula, they both were there, and they were like taking turns kind of just, you know, either rubbing my back or holding me up as I, you know, was breathing through the contractions, and, you know, just really encouraging. And for me, the lights, I had to have the lights dim, and I had me some worship music on, because I just felt like it was just like, even though this was a natural thing that was happening, I knew where my ultimate strength came from. And I would just, you know, even working through the contractions, I was just like praying and saying, God, I trust you. And the worship music was just something that really ministered to my spirit during that time. I needed that, and I felt like it got me through a lot of those contractions. But yeah, so just laboring all day. And I was, thankfully, the doctor allowed me to be connected to a wireless monitor. That way I could kind of like move around and walk around and all of that. But the wireless monitor stopped working, so the nurse had to hook me up to another type of monitor. But she said that, you know, you can still move around, but I guess I wasn't able to move around as far as I was initially. I kind of just had to stay in a certain area. But I took that. I was like, I'll take that, because I just really didn't want to just be sitting in a bed, because I knew in order to get him to drop down lower, I needed to walk, I needed to bounce on my ball, I needed to like do certain things instead of just like laying in a bed. So at that time, my contractions seemed to kind of, I don't know, they kind of slowed up a little bit around that time. And so they was like 7 to 8 minutes apart, not like progressing like they should have been. Maybe like 10 or 11 maybe around that time, 10 a.m., 11 o'clock a.m. This was still Friday morning. My doctor came back in, he checked me. He said that I only had dilated 7 centimeters, which was, no, I only made it to 6 centimeters. He said that I only made it to 6 centimeters, which, you know, was some progress, but being that I was laboring like all throughout that early morning until like 10 or 11, I only dilated 6 centimeters. Of course, he began to kind of talk about having that conversation about, you know, if, you know, progress isn't being made, you might need to consider a C-section, blah, blah, blah. Thankfully, I was not moved by that. I think around 12 o'clock afternoon time, Friday afternoon, I began to talk with my doula and my husband. I was just like, I feel so tired. I feel so drained. They were tired. I mean, I was up all Wednesday night, and I was up, you know, basically all Thursday day and night. And then Friday morning, Friday afternoon, I was basically up all those hours, and my body was just exhausted. So we all agreed, like, you know, it's probably best to go ahead and get an epidural. That way I could sleep. It wasn't even the pain of, you know, the reason why I got it, but, you know, you just have to be real with yourself, especially with laboring and then even getting to that point of delivery. So a good point that my doula made, she was saying that you don't want to be exhausted, you know, by the time you get ready to have to push, and you don't have any energy and you're just out of it and you're tired. After I got it, I was thankful that I did, because I took a nap. I needed that nap. My body needed to rest, just laboring all day, all night, and I needed that rest. Unfortunate thing about that, of course, with getting the epidural, you don't have as much feeling in your legs or your lower part of your body. So I could not walk. I had to stay in the bed. Thankfully, they have this ball called the peanut ball. So the nurse and my doula, they suggested different ways to position myself with the peanut ball to try to get him to come down even further. And so I would just, you know, be in those positions for some time. I'll turn to my different sides and kind of adjust my body throughout that process of just laying in the bed to try to get him to come down. So time is just going by, and then the shift change happened. My doctor ended up leaving. It was another doctor that came in. So she seemed to be a pretty nice doctor. She was a realist, and that's something that I think she said. She's like, you know, I have to be a realist about, you know, where you are and your progress and all of this, and, you know, I'm gonna let you labor a little bit longer, but you need to start considering, you know, the next option if nothing is progressing. The first time she came in, I was just like, I want to wait. You know, I really felt like in my heart, like, just to wait. And so we said we're gonna wait a couple more hours. So she came in. I think when she came in, I had only dilated to 7 centimeters around that time. So she did this next time she came in, she mentioned taking Pitocin, or me getting some Pitocin, because my contractions, the issue was my contractions were slowing down. They weren't picking up, they weren't consistent, they weren't, you know, going like 5 minutes apart. They were kind of just like sporadic. And of course, you know, contractions are what helps the baby to get down into the right position. So we agreed, we decided to do the Pitocin, in which I did see a difference in the contractions. They did start picking up, kind of like 5 minutes apart and all of that, which was great. It was twice where before she came in, I felt in my heart that, like, God was telling me to wait, like, hear what she has to say, but wait. And so those 2 times that she came in, when she mentioned, like, okay, do you want to wait 2 more hours to see if you make any progress, or do you want to go ahead and do a C-section? That's when I said, okay, we're going to just wait. So with both of those times where, you know, she was asking, what do we want to do, and we decided to wait, we did make some progress. I think I ended up getting to about, I think 8 centimeters with her. So I did make some progress, which was good. I don't know if it was significant progress because he was still high. I think the third time before she came in, I felt like God was like, the next time that she comes in, do whatever she tells you to do. And so in my mind, I'm like, what's that mean? Like, why do I need to do this? Because what she's trying to tell me to do is have a C-section. And so I was just like, okay. And so when she came in, it was just crazy how I'm thinking that she's coming in to say, okay, well, you didn't make any progress. It's time to do a C-section. But this time around, she was like, you know what? Let me try something. And then so she tried, I guess she had to go in and like turn and move my cervix a little bit to get Tyler to reposition to try to drop a little bit lower. And then she hooked up another monitor to me. And then another thing, it was like I got the Pitocin. They kept upping it, you know, and she said being that I had a C-section, they could only go to 20. Well, that third time or that last time that she came in, she was like, you know what? I'm going to give you an order to go to 25 because I feel like that could probably really get your contractions more consistent. And so she put in the doctor's orders, allowed them to bump up the Pitocin to 25 for me, and contractions became even more consistent. So it was just crazy how I'm thinking that she was coming in to tell me one thing, and then God did it, like just giving her wisdom to try a few more things before actually resorting to having a C-section. So Saturday morning came. This is April 7th. Another shift change was about to happen, so I didn't even see her anymore, that doctor who was working with me all throughout the night. And by then, I think I kind of slowed up on, you know, the epidural. They give you like the little button to press if you're starting to feel pain, but I didn't really want to just like, just get all of the epidural. You know, I still wanted to have some feeling to when we got to that point of pushing. Another doctor was about to, you know, basically be my doctor. And my doula, she asked who the doctor was, and she, you know, once the nurse shared who it was, she was like, oh yeah, he's a really good doctor. So the fact that my doula knew of him and spoke well of him, it was very encouraging for me to say, okay, you know, maybe we still have some time. You know, maybe he'll be willing to work with us to really help us to do what we desire to do concerning this birth. It's crazy because that morning it was like he took a while. Like, I think the shift change happened at 7, and he did not come to my room until about 9 o'clock. And it was just like, okay, where is this doctor? Like, he has not come to introduce himself, to say hey or what. So it was like around 9 o'clock he comes in the room, and he didn't even check me when he came in the room. He was just like, hey, how you doing? All right, well, it looks like you're making some progress, so I'll come back later and check on you. And I'm like, okay. I look over at my doula like, okay, is that fine? Like, what's going on? So I was just like, all right, maybe he's just giving us some time to get Tyler in position. So around 11 o'clock, I believe, it's 11 o'clock a.m. on Saturday morning, he comes back in after that, and he checks me, and I am 10 centimeters dilated. However, Tyler, he's still sitting up high, but the doctor was like, you know what, let's try to just do some practice pushes. You know, he told the nurse, like, try to do some practice pushes with her and kind of just see what we can do. And so from there, we began to try to like do some practice pushes. That was my first time experiencing pushing. So it really allowed me to kind of get adjusted to it, like before the actual pushes, before we really started the actual pushing. But it was very encouraging, the fact that I did dilate 10 centimeters, and so it was just like, okay, what do we need to do to get this baby down? As we were doing the practice pushes, she was actually able to see Tyler's head, but it was like, how the nurse explained it, she was like, it's like you're going 2 steps forward, but then 2 steps back. I had been pushing maybe for like 2 or 3 hours, like just pushing, trying to get this baby to come down. And so it's just crazy how it all happened. So we decided, being that I was just getting exhausted, I was falling asleep in between the pushes. It was just crazy. It was like I could really tell that my body was just super exhausted. So what we decided to do, we were like, let's just take a break from pushing, and let's just take a break. Like, Taryn, take a nap real quick, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna do this. Once the nurse came back, you know, the fact that she was saying that it seems like you're going 2 steps forward or 2 steps back, I think that kind of got to me, and it wasn't her, it wasn't because she said that. I think it was just like the fact that like we keep trying, I'm putting in all this work and nothing's happening. And I just really had a meltdown. Like, I just started crying, and I wasn't even really trying to cry. I was just like, I can't help it. Like, I can't help it. And my husband, he's like, Tara, you gotta keep your head in the game. You gotta keep your head in the game. You can do this. And so it was like, okay, let me get myself together. And so they pulled out the mirror for me to see what I was doing. She was like, do you want to use the mirror so you can actually see what you're doing? And I was like, yes, I need that. So they put the mirror in front, and so I was able to see even the hair on his head, even though he was still kind of not as far down in the birth canal like I should have been. I was still able to see like his hair on his head, and my husband, he got to see it. And so that was so encouraging to see his head in the mirror, and it really just gave me a boost to push, to keep pushing and to keep doing. So we were like pushing over for like 3, I think the total amount of time that I pushed was like 4 hours and 40 minutes. After we took that break and came back and we tried again, it was probably only about 30 minutes, and they started calling in the doctor, calling in all the nurses, and it's like, all right, we're ready to do this. And so I think I was initially tired, but I like perked up because I'm like, this is really about to happen. Like right now, it happened, it came so fast, like from me doing all that pushing and then them like, okay, let's bring in everybody. I didn't know we were there already. Like we're here. Like I'm about to push this baby out. So the doctor came in. I probably only pushed through like 4 contractions, y'all, and Tyler made his way into the world. I cried. I shouted, "Thank you, Jesus." I kissed my husband. I was just so overjoyed, just so filled with like so many emotions. Just amazed that had just happened. I could not believe it. I could not believe like this really just happened. And just to hear him cry, them placing him on me, that whole experience is one that it was like the manifestation of my desire, of what I had been praying for, of what I felt like God told me that would happen. And this promise just basically, I'm holding this promise basically. And so I was just so happy, so overjoyed. I really can't even put into words just that moment. And everybody started cheering and just like happily like, yay, congratulations. It was just euphoric, I guess, if I could put it into a word, euphoric maybe. Tyler made his entrance into the world on April 7th, one day after his due date, and it was just perfect. And it was at 4:55 p.m. That's when he came into the world. It's just been a blessing. I would definitely encourage you, if you desire to have a VBAC, you know, educate yourself on it. Definitely, number one, try to make sure that you maintain a positive attitude. Not to say that, you know, your story is going to turn out like mine, but ultimately what I'm thankful for is throughout that whole laboring process, from when my water broke and actually having him, my blood pressure was fine. Tyler's heart rate was good the entire time. We didn't have any issues. I didn't have any infections. So those things really determined, you know, how we were going to progress with the labor and delivery. Thankfully, you know, for us, it happened that way. But I would encourage you, you know, if it is something that you desire, educate yourself. Even try some of those natural induction methods that I shared with you all. Because I do feel like those kind of help to prepare my body to be able to have him vaginally. Even if your baby is in different positions and not in the optimal position, you know, try to do what you can before you get to this point of labor and delivery to try to get your baby to turn or in the right position. Thankful for my doula, who, you know, was always there if I had questions about anything. I'll put her information in the link in the comments or in the description box below. Thank God that Tyler is here, that he's healthy, I'm healthy. And yeah, this is my VBAC story. I hope that you enjoyed. If you have questions, comments, drop them in the box below. Also, if you are interested, be sure to go to my family vlog channel to check out Tyler's birth announcement video. And as always, I thank you for your love, your support. And until next time, make sure that you keep that revamp going. Bye.